Hey, good night. How y'all doing tonight? Uh, Camera's looking a little bit fuzzy wuzzy. Uh, See what I can do to change that. All right, all right. Now you can see all the oil on my face and that bump right there and everything else. Good night, guys. How y'all doing? We're gonna be focused on the class tonight. Welcome to Astro Einstein. You learn all your astrological information. I hope you guys are doing your homework because I haven't seen anything inside my email. I'm gonna say this to you one more time. Do your friggin' homework. Do your classwork. Thank you. I round them off for the night. Okay, so I'm gonna explain to you what Saturn is in your chart. And according to this book, I'm gonna give you, let's read an insert from Saturn in the book Astrology, Astrology for Yourself, a workbook for personal transformation. How to understand and interpret your own birth chart. And it calls Saturn the teacher, ruler of Capricorn, and they use the words I manifest. Saturn, planetary ruler of Capricorn, of the sign Capricorn, symbolizes the capacity to create order, form, discipline in one's life. Saturn is the last planet to be seen with the naked eye. It's primarily known for the beautiful rings that encircle its equator. These rings express a physical form. Saturn's primary function is limitation. The manner in which Saturn teaches us discipline is analogous to the way that the parent disciplines his or her child. I hope I pronounced that right. Initially, the parent may set the child's limitation by confining play to the backyard. If the child stays within these boundaries, he is given permission to play next door. Now, however, if he has new limits, he may not cross the street to visit Johnny. If he follows these rules, he will soon be allowed to visit his friend. As the process unfolds, each time the child assumes new responsibilities. He gains additional freedom, yet, if at any time he oversteps the limits that his parents have set, he is quickly punished by being restricted to his original surroundings. This story illustrates Saturn's most important lesson. Spiritual growth occurs through the fulfillment of earthly responsibilities and obligations. Through being faithful to the need of Saturn, raising a family, holding a job, keeping commitments, we learn more about life than any book can teach. If, however, we overstep our boundaries or neglect our responsibilities, then we experience the subsequent limitation. These limitations can manifest as restrictions, blockage, frustration, crystallized conditions, unresolved fears, and inhibitions. Saturn's position in the chart by house and sign often points to the areas where these feelings of limitations are most strongly felt. Yet Saturn also promises that if we confront these problems head on, we will ultimately transform our inadequacies into our greatest assets. Saturn's symbol is depicted by the cross of matter over the semicircle of the soul. Hence, Saturn governs the need to learn the lessons of the physical plane. These lessons are given to us by Saturn's most important law, the law of karma. And this is why Saturn is said to bring karma wherever that is connected. On the physical plane, this law states that every action produces an equal but opposite reaction. Or what goes around comes around. Saturn, therefore, meets out perfect impersonal justice to all. It's test, it tests us every step of our lives, leaving no room for escapism, self-deception, or wishful thinking. Through Saturn's workings, we get exactly what we deserve, no more and no less. In its skillful expression, Saturn energy enables us to take our ideals and translate them into concrete form and structures that maintain and support our lives. Often it takes time and discipline. So we learn patience, to wait. That is one thing that we learn. Yes. Let me look at it. Let me take a look at that. So it says, okay, conch solid rocks. So conch solid rocks. Saturn brings karma from past life or from how we govern ourselves in this life. It brings karma from past lives. I can also, if that is being stipulated inside your chart, can bring instant karma, meaning something that you have done, and you like, oh, hey there, hey conch solid rocks. All right, and yes, it can bring karma from this lifetime if that chart stipulates that that person has immediate karma. And that could possibly be with Saturn sitting in the first house. As I continue, Saturn uses time to assist us in another way. In our story, the child needed time to prove his sense of responsibility. Likewise, many of our greatest lessons can only be learned over time. No problem, Dale. Through repeated experiences. In conclusion, Saturn teaches that the purpose of life is growing through experiences. Saturn's path is not always easy, for sometimes our most valuable lessons are also the most painful. However, in working through our lessons like the child, we gain the freedom to progress to higher stages of development. If Jupiter provides us with the faith that all will work out for the best, Saturn teaches us how. Through our own efforts, we can turn that vision into a reality. Psychologically, Saturn rules the system that provides the body with its form and structure. These include the skeletal system, the teeth, the skin, joints, and knees. Saturn also governs the gallbladder, spleen, and hearing organs. Saturnian illnesses are structural disorders caused by blockage or crystallization occurring over time. Examples include rheumatism, arthritis, arteriosclerosis, arteriosclerosis is another one. I'm trying to pronounce this with that. Sorry, I'm not a doctor. Saturnian individuals are also prone to the emotional stresses of worry, depression, despondency, and gloom. Hence, they should seek out cheerful companions and environments that will facilitate a more positive outlook in life. Skillful expression is responsibilities, disciplined, grounded, thorough, patient. Unskillful expressions, fearful, inhibited, pessimistic, depressed, and controlling. Okay, that's according to the book. And that is a good outlet. The reason why I went into reading that fully is because Saturn in astrology has been deemed the evil one. Deemed the planet that literally is not good. Doesn't bring any good. But like I said before, every planet has its good and bad side. We just look at the restrictions and the limitations. But we don't see that we learn structure and order and organization in that same process. So I wanted to explain that through the book so you could understand, and you could go through that and you could read that whenever you forget these functions of Saturn. Okay? I'm going to go back to the board because we're going to focus on Saturn in the houses. Okay? That could possibly be so. That's a good question, Ami. The question Ami asks is, if people who have Saturn in the first house have self, the word is, let me look at it again. There are self-assertion issues. Yeah, because they restrict themselves from that. They restrict themselves from being self-assertive. You understand? It does, so they literally could have a sort of uh, a gloomy sense, like how it says, anybody that has Saturn literally close to the ascendant can come up being very responsible, but also, they could be somebody you can depend on, who could be suspect or susceptible to depression and gloominess and pessimism and these sort of things. A Saturnian person, what? So most of them. Okay, so question first is, so most of them suffer from anxiety. Uh, most of them suffer from depression because of focusing on things that are pessimistic. That could be, gloominess and depression. Could literally be a trait that they have. Second question is, if it's a positive aspect, can they? Yes. Oh, yes. They can be very responsible and stoic. Meaning, they could be like, you literally may not, you may be fooled by their look on the outside, because they could be feeling a whole lot of emotions on the inside, but because you're looking at their face, you see them so serious. Like, so let me give you a facial expression. The look of a Saturnian face. Let me try to fix my face like it. So it's like, hi, how you doing? Yes, very good. Or even if they're in love, or they have somebody, they were talking to mommy, mommy, I love you. I love you. I love you, right? So that their expression may not be so like somebody who has it like, mommy, I love you. Yes, exactly. I mean, they display a stern exterior, because remember now, the first house represents your exterior, how you present yourself. All right. So Saturn would give you that stoic look, and they would literally, they could feel a lot, but because you're looking at their facial expression in the physical body, you're not really seeing them like how they really are. I'm gonna give you some people who has Saturn in the first house. Let me give you some. I'm gonna give you some. Eminem. Eminem has that stoic look. Like, Eminem has Saturn in the first house. Let me give you some more. Yes. Oh, let me make sure this person has it for real. Another one that has Saturn. Let me go back, sorry. I missed it. Saturn house. There you go. There you go. Oh. So, let me give you some more. John Lennon, Russell Crowe, Sean Connery. Yeah, let's do Sean Connery. James Bond. I'm James. James Bond. You know, sort of responsible, sort of I'm all about business look on their face. Most people that have this would have that look on their face. Let me give you another person that has Saturn in the first house. Ellen DeGeneres. Look at her face. She be talking all kind of foolishness. Let me see. Yeah, like Wednesday from Addams Family. Yes, she's like that. So Ellen DeGeneres has Saturn in the first house. And as you can take a look at her facial features, and she has Mars in the first house too, as well, which gives her that masculine look. You know, so she has, not only does she she can tell a joke and her face is very straight. Laugh and it goes straight to a straight face. It's because of that Saturn sitting in the first house. So Saturn in the first house can bring you the feeling, a sense of responsibility. You know, people rely on you. You're just so responsible, you know. But it also can bring somebody who, as time go on, because remember now, Saturn is the father of time. As time go on, they can be more assertive. So Ellen probably wasn't very much assertive growing up, but maybe because she has Mars in the first house, but because Saturn was there, she would have grown into being more assertive. You understand? That's what Saturn does, sitting in the first house. Saturn in the first house also would have you, believe it or not, to look like your father, have a lot of resemblance like your father. I'm sure if you look at Ellen DeGeneres, she probably look exactly like her father. Yes. But that also can be a little bit, yes, so most Capricorn risings have that Saturnian look. This is how sometimes as an astrologer, if I'm rectifying a chart, not just by, you know, events that took place inside their life, but also from their physical body. Most of the people that are very stoic, you could be confused whether they have Saturn on the first house or if they have Capricorn. So, yeah, but those two have the same effect. Capricorn rising gives that stoic look. I think we have somebody in this group whose name is Deandra. You know, she's living in Freeport and she has a stoic look, but she's a Capricorn rising. You understand? Also, Felicity, who's inside our chat, she also is a Capricorn rising. And they could come off as being very feeling, whirl of emotions. And that's how it is. So Saturn in the first house, also like I told you, can have a lot of resemblance of your father. Because remember now, Saturn is father time. Father. I want you to understand that and keep that in mind. Saturn in the first house could also, like I told you before, can... Yes. So yeah. Let me give you another example of somebody who has Saturn in the first house so we can continue on with going forward. I want you to understand. So Saturn also gives you karma, brings karma. And you have karma to your physical body. Okay? You have a karma to your physical body. If we use Ellen DeGeneres as somebody who has Saturn in the first house, we would literally say that she has karma dedicated to her physical body. We all know that she's a lesbian, and you know, nevertheless, so she makes this very, very plain and clear. And her Saturn being in the first house could also bring her a sense of karma when it comes to her physical body, of learning how to be a woman or how to not be a woman, according to her chart. But literally, she has a karma to her body. There may be a possible repercussion if she was to try to change sex, which she probably can't. But, you know, that's just how it is. There is a sense of repercussion dealing with the physical body, a sense of karma. All right? Let me give you another person that has Saturn in the first house, and we can move on because we have a lot to go. Hope you guys are still following. Margaret Thatcher has Saturn in the first house. Meg Ryan, believe it or not, even Usher has Saturn in the first house. Do-do-do-dum, bo-bo-do-dum, bo-bo-do-bum, bo-bo-do-bum, bo-bo-do-bum. So Christina Ricci, which is the name of that, I think that's her name. She started the she's a young lady, young little girl. I mean, she's 20. She's 20. Okay, so if that's the person physical hurt someone, it meant they would really. Let me try to explain it a little bit better. So if that person physically hurt someone, it means they would really reap karma to their body. No, I think you misunderstood what I'm saying. What I was saying is that they have a responsibility to their own physical body. You understand? Let's just say that, the aspects or the sign it's sitting in has a sort of connection with their, with an accident that they were supposed to have. That will be connected to Mars, or, some other aspect or midpoint that would be with the transit that would initiate that. But the Saturn itself mean you taking a full responsibility on your own, doing what you're supposed to do, or doing your own action from your free will, and experiencing immediate karma from that experience. You understand? This is why it is said by my teacher that karma, or physical karma, with Saturn in the first house, can reap physical karma based upon something you've done. All right? Especially to yourself. Saturn in the second house. Saturn in the second house. Okay? All right? And Saturn in the second house. What is the second house? We already know what the second house is. The second house is the house of assets, your self-worth, your movable assets, your income, the way you make money, the things that you find enjoyable, things of the five senses, the hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. These are the five senses. I mean, the second house naturally rules, okay? Also rules the third. And Saturn sitting in the second house. So let me give you an example first. I like to point out people that have these positions in their chart, so you could follow and get a visual of what I'm saying. You won't believe this. They got Jesus Christ that's having Saturn in the second house. They got him as a Capricorn rising, Sun in Pisces, Moon in Aquarius, and MC in Scorpio. What's going on? Somebody blocked up. What happened? Sorry, guys. So yeah, poor Jesus. Saturn in the second house. So let me give you an example who has Saturn in the second house. Me. I have Saturn in the second house. Mahatma Gandhi has Saturn in the second house. What? Saturn in the second house is tight with their possessions? Yeah. This could possibly be true. You're right. Mahatma Gandhi, Kanye West, Justin Timberlake. Let me make sure that these people has this. Right? This doesn't necessarily bring you to be poor, because there are other stuff that points that out. Some astrologers say, your sun has Saturn in the second house. Yeah. Believe it or not, Elizabeth Taylor also had Saturn in the second house. Thank you for joining in, Sharon. Thank you for your grand entrance. All right. So, Elizabeth Taylor was a very rich woman through her marriages and what have you. And she had Saturn in the second house. Let me name some. Mark Zuckerberg. Let me make sure that he has this in the second house because they could be wrong. Yeah, they're wrong. He has Saturn in the third house. Okay, so Mark Zuckerberg doesn't have Saturn in the second house. Don't get all excited. Clint Eastwood has Mars in the second house. Snoop Doggy Dogg. Steven Spielberg and Stephen King. Does Kim Kardashian have Saturn in the second? I'll have to check. Stephen King has Saturn in the second house. Yeah, he does. Stephen King has Saturn in the second house, and so does Steven Spielberg. And these guys are pretty much rich. Yeah, these guys are pretty much rich, as you can see. Saturn in the second house could also bring you a stable and steady amount of assets. Why? Because Saturn is such a restrictive planet. It's such a responsible planet. It's such a planet that it always seems pessimistic. This person always feels that they will never have enough. So it's always have that feeling of, I won't have enough. I don't have enough. I won't ever have enough. That keeps them in that frame of mind of not really having enough until they reach past that sense of self-worth, which is ruled by the second house. They continue to spiral down that. Saturn in the second house could tell you how you can make money. So let's just say the planet Saturn is sitting in your second house. What it indicates a profession or a job that you can make money from. You can make money through teaching. You can make money through the government. Saturn rules these things. You could make money through, the teacher. Anything that's Saturnian in energy, you can make money from. Take in mind, any planet sitting in your second house is where you can make money from. Any sign that's sitting in your second house is where you can make money from. Yeah. Overly cautious in some sense, yes. But I also have Jupiter in my second house and I have Mars in my second house. So Saturn sitting in my second house is offset by Jupiter, which I have in my second house as well. Saturn in the second house can make this person, whoever that person may be, to feel as if they can't make a whole lot of money at one time, but from a slow period and gradual process. But from that slow gradual process, they have the capability and the possibility of, at the end of it all, making more money than most people because of their strict and very organized way of going about making that money. All right? And I think I gave you a good example of that. No, I didn't, did I? Oh, yes, I did. So if you understand that, then let me know. Let me make sure I'm looking at Kanye West. Oh, another one is Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi and Kanye West in the second house. Yeah, Mahatma Gandhi literally lived a life of poverty and found himself restricting himself from eating and what have you, just for humanity, for his country. He did this. And that sense of restriction of the five senses. Remember now, he didn't eat. He starved himself for a bit. I don't know if it's just your stream. Maybe it's your internet. My internet seems to be very strong. I'm not sure what's going on with yours. Okay? Okay, so check maybe it's your internet, maybe it's mine, I'm not sure. But I hope that you can get it. I hope my stream isn't going to be like that constantly. So, Saturn is a very long topic. We're going to go from 1 to 6, and then we're going to do 7 and 12 next class. So, if you guys, we got Saturn inside the 7th going straight through. Why do you feel as if he's a risk taker? He's a risk taker when it comes to not money. I would say he's a show off. And that is sort of evident to his second house ruling or being ruled by Leo. All right, so so he has it in Leo. So he's a show off with his money, but he'll do it for the showing off sake. But doesn't necessarily mean that he takes risk when it comes to that. Okay. That's a good point though. Moving on to Saturn in the 3rd house. The house that rules your mental processing, your early childhood, your siblings, your transportation, your information. This also includes magazines, newspaper, television, also your neighborhood friendly dope dealer. I'm just joking with that part. But you get where I'm coming from. Yeah. So Saturn in the 3rd house. What is Saturn? Planet of restriction, limitation, also responsibilities, also dealing with structure and order, and the government. Sitting in your 3rd house. Because we have a question. So does Saturn make the person feel like they have to hold tightly to the possession? Yes. That can possibly be so if there isn't any offset from Jupiter. If they have Jupiter conjunct Saturn in that 2nd house or opposite 2nd house, then, Saturn by itself could do a lot of damage. It could make somebody a miser. Make somebody who hoards their things. If they don't have Jupiter in the 2nd house. Okay? It's a very good question. Thank you for that question, Dale. That was awesome. Thank you, Ambi, for that question as well. Sharon, I know you got a question coming up. I know how you go, and that's awesome. I'm waiting for it. So Saturn in the 3rd house, early childhood. What does it mean with Saturn in the 3rd house? This person can feel as if, I've seen in charts that I've done before where the person has Saturn in the 3rd house took a long time before they started talking as a child. Because remember now, 3rd house deals with communication, or how you communicate, your thought process. So people would think that this person either is dumb or just can't speak or, taking so long to talk. I've seen that happen before. In a few charts, a whole lot of charts that I've seen with Saturn in the 3rd house. Saturn in the 3rd house could also make you have a sense of responsibilities towards your siblings. I want you to see the key in what I'm doing here with the word that actually represents Saturn. And what I'm doing with the houses, the words that actually represent the houses. What we do is we take those words and we put them together. And this is how you're going to do your charts and other people's charts, like the word responsibility. So they feel responsible to their siblings. There's a limitation towards their communication, or they feel a sense of, they feel as if there's been a restriction on their early childhood. So we're going to use the interaction or the connection, and it's according to what sign is sitting on. If that sign is Saturn likes being there, or if he doesn't. I want you to get the full understanding of how you are going to be using these things. Do like that so we can focus. Okay. Just check it out my good side. The ills of being a Leo rising, right? So Saturn in the third house. Okay? Saturn in the third house can bring a sense of needing to, even if they don't finish high school, needing to feel as if they need to finish high school. Also, as time go on, they can seem more, what's the word I want to use? More needing to be more educated. All right? More educated, in a sense. With Saturn, sorry, that was a message I just saw on my phone. With Saturn sitting in the third house, I've experienced quite a few times where that person may not even have siblings, or they just may feel as if they need to take care of their siblings. This person can go quite a long time without having a car, or may decide on having older type cars as their transportation. All these things you can find out through that. Okay? Yes, they could also have that. They could have a sense of writer's block, in a sense, where they don't feel as if they have the mental capacity to communicate the way they want, or to learn the way they want. Also, I've seen people who have Saturn in the third house don't have don't really have the capabilities of socializing with people. So these are people who could literally like to be in front of people, and the minute they open their mouth, it's like, what? Because they lack that capacity. Yes, they are a few words. That's the reason why. Okay. Saturn in the third house can also bring that. Saturn in the third house could also means that your siblings could possibly be more older or mature than you, and you could be the youngest. Or the reverse, where there is an extreme when it comes to that. Either you're the oldest or you're the youngest. Because Saturn is sitting there. All these are possibilities. Okay? Secondly, okay, so we're going to move on to who has this. You want to know, like, who the dummies who have this? They're not dummies, okay? I don't want you to be looking at these people like they're dummies. Saturn in the third house. Let's look at one or two persons there. Oh, y'all will never believe it. Wow. Let me ask you something. Do y'all think, did Justin Bieber finish high school? I want to know that. Did Elvis Presley finish high school? Did Bruce Willis finish high school? Did Jim Carrey finish high school? I'm going to take a look at these charts to make sure that they do have Saturn in the third house. Jean-Claude Van Damme has Saturn in the third house. So let me take one particular person so we can focus on that person. So this This site is saying that Steve Jobs has Saturn in the third house. And he does. He has Saturn in the sign. Sorry about that. All right, so I'm back. So Saturn in his third house, what that brings to him. What is this? Let me see. Oh. Saturn in the third house in Steve Jobs' house, bring him a sense of responsibility. So remember we talked about karma with the second house. Karma, meaning people who have Saturn in the second house. I didn't explain this, but has a sort of a responsibility that they, I guess, overused money in a sense, or over abused it in the second house, and now they have a responsibility towards it. And it's the same way with Saturn in the third. This person has a sense of responsibility in the area of communication. And with Steve Jobs, Saturn in his third house, as you already know, he had and created a very stable way of making money, starting from his business from scratch, and growing. Oh, so Saturn also is the business planet. It's the one that's all about business. So this can also tells you, especially what sign it's sitting in the house it's sitting in, where you can make money, where you can have a successful business. And as you can see, Steve Jobs has Saturn in the third house of communication in the sign of Scorpio. So he literally controlled the communication world because of his karmic debt to communication on a mass scale. Okay? Before I move on, any questions? Give you about 10-second buffer. Let's move on to Saturn in the fourth. And what is the fourth house? The fourth house is your roots, your home. It's your family. It's your psychological makeup. It's your ending part of your life. People who have, and what is Saturn? We already know. It's the planet of restriction, limitations, structure, order, organization, business, karma, and all that other stuff. And with Saturn sitting inside the fourth house, what do you think that tells you? Most people say that people who have Saturn in the fourth house come from humble beginnings. Family may have been restricted in some form or fashion, or had some form of restriction. Marilyn Monroe had Saturn in her her fourth house. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. She had Saturn in her fourth house. And with Saturn in her fourth house in the sign of Scorpio, it is said that people who have Saturn in Scorpio, as they get older, they get sexier. I don't know. I don't have Saturn in the fourth house, inside the sign of Scorpio. But with Saturn in the fourth house, it sort of brings a limitation. It brings that person from a humble beginning because it's restricted. The physical home, like I said, second house is movable assets, but the fourth house is assets like land and property and home. And this could tell that she basically didn't really have her own home growing up as a child, or, she was could have been a Rolling Stone. Felt restricted from the home. Felt restricted from her mom, sort of sense of responsibility. Remember, if you ever watched the movie of Marilyn Monroe, she felt responsible towards her mom. Saturn in the fourth house would present that. for that person that has this in the chart. Saturn in the fourth house could also present that person with somebody who doesn't really give a shit about their roots and their culture and all that other stuff. They could care less because they don't feel really connected to that anyway. Saturn in the fourth house can bring in, is said to say, is where old souls live. In the fourth house, she lacked affection, is what you're asking, Ambi. I am not sure if that would be an equation. I could say that, no, I wouldn't say that. Oh, yes. Yeah, she lacked that. So, okay, so if Saturn is the teacher, this is another question. If Saturn is the teacher having those humble beginnings and early responsibilities, sorry, let me get back to it. Responsibilities, does it mean later on after the older structure puts down the Saturn established? Yes. Yes, because I mean that's what I've seen in most charts. It shows that that person would literally work towards something that they don't have. Whenever you have a void, there is a sense, a deeper inner need to feel as if you have to fill that void. And that's what karma does. Does it mean that the psychological beginning much more stable in the life? Yes. That is a very good question. That's a very good question, Dale. And yes, what I've seen is that that person literally becomes a little bit more stable psychologically. Because, and not only that, they're more rational minded. So they do things on it from a pragmatic standpoint. Yeah, that's a very good question. So Saturn in that fourth house would bring that person to be a more sound, straight person. Another person that has this, let me take a look at, before I say this person, I want to make sure that this person is, and has, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, no. Mother Teresa has Saturn in the fifth house of fun and sex. Oh gosh. Isn't that something? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I thought Drake had Saturn in the fourth house, but he doesn't. He has Saturn in the fifth. Does Drake even have kids? No. So, as we give you those examples, Saturn in the fourth house can bring that person up. They can have a very, very good business when it comes to real estate as time go on. If they focus and build their real estate business from the beginning, from the beginnings, and go up, they could literally, create a way of business. They could also open up an antique shop, selling antique furnitures or antique cars. Business, remember now, Saturn business. Jupiter, along with Saturn, business. But Saturn is definitely all about order and structure. Strictly about business. Let's move on to Saturn in the fifth house. I think some of you have Saturn in the fifth house. And we're going to look at Mother Teresa's Saturn in the fifth house. Let me just make sure that she has Saturn in the fifth house. Yes, she does. Let's use another example. Because we already know that Mother Teresa didn't have kids, but she felt a sense of responsibility towards children. You get that? You get how her karma, because her Saturn is in retrograde, her karma towards kids, because had been played out because she probably from a past life abused having kids or having fun, because the fifth house is the house of fun, children, speculation, gambling, using all your talents, your creative gifts. And with her Saturn sitting inside her fifth house, maybe Mother Teresa would have had some children if she had not been so religious, but later on in life. But remember now, her sense of responsibility was towards kids and taking care of kids, helping them out with assets, things that the five senses naturally needs. And why? Because her Saturn is sitting in the sign of Taurus, sitting in the fifth house, sense of responsibility, and her business was about dealing with kids. Even though that wasn't her business, she was in the clergy. But she made it her business to deal with poor people and children. So Saturn in the fifth house can bring that. Saturn in the fifth house could bring a sense of, it's according to what sign it's sitting in. Sorry, guys. Can bring on children later on in life. That could be a possibility of bringing on children later on in life. It could also feel a sense of responsibility towards all the children around them. It's like, you're my child and you're my child and I got godchildren everywhere. You are my children. Come, my children. You know, and what you say? Sharon, that's you, eh? Yeah, and it's a sense of karma, a connection. Like I said, according to evolutionary astrology, it's saying that Saturn in the fifth house are people who abuse the childbearing nature of themselves and have came in this lifetime to learn the responsibility, the heart, what it takes to deal with children on a fun level, as opposed to just giving out children and making children and only seeing the hardship of it, but also to see the fun part about it. Saturn in the fifth house needs to make time for fun. And as they get older, they seem to be more fun oriented. These are the people, as they get older, their sex drive gets stronger as well. They would find themselves dating, because remember now, romance is also connected with the fifth house, older people. Oh yeah, I just gave you an astrological hack, Dale. So Saturn in the, you may find yourself dating older people, or being attracted to, or being fun, having fun around older people. Okay, the question is, would you say that if they master the lesson, they pay off the karmic debt, and then they will have kids, or no? Yeah, because as time go on, regardless of the restriction causes you to make another step. All right? So. Oh, okay. Yeah, now I get where you're coming from, Sharon. And let me answer your question. Would you say that if they master the lesson, they pay off in karmic debt, and then they'd be able to have kids, or not? I would say, personally, from my experiences, that it's according to what sign is sitting on that, in that that fifth house. If Saturn by itself, then that could be. But they have Neptune and Uranus and Pluto and Saturn and Mars sitting in the fifth house. That is some complications that they have to look forward to in order to have kids. That's a lot of malefic planets there. But Saturn by itself can be like that. Okay, so Saturn sitting inside the fifth house. That we going through all of those other things. Um, Only Uranus and Moon in my fifth. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. Yes, Sharon, you also have Uranus, and I think your fifth house is ruled by Aquarius as well. Right. Let's give another example of Saturn in the fifth house, so you guys get that. You get the example. Oh, also, I wouldn't if I have Saturn in the fifth house. Gambling, I'd try to stay far away from until I get a little older. Maybe they could win something. But Sharon, have you ever won any big time money while gambling? Since you have Saturn in the fifth house, I want to know. Have you ever won a lot? And Ambi, since you have Saturn in the fifth house, what's the most money you've won, Sharon? You've won thousands of dollars? Oh, okay. Okay, so check us out. That brings out another point that you just pointed out. $341? Really, Sharon? That's the most profit you ever Oh, all right. Yeah. Saturn also makes that person not really want to gamble. Feel as if they won't win. They don't win much. But you winning that inside Puerto Rico, and that brings another form of astrology, which is relocational astrology. Okay. But yeah, Saturn in the fifth house. Ambi, have you won a lot of money gambling, or you restrict yourself from gambling? Think about that when you think about Saturn in the fifth house. Feeling a sense of responsibility towards fun. Also, Saturn in the fifth house feel a very, very responsible towards their children. Children that aren't theirs. Oh, you do. You win. Wait. You win? Now, the only way I can see you winning is if you have Jupiter that rules your fifth house. If you have Sagittarius on your fifth house, and Sagittarius is naturally ruled by Jupiter, there's possibility of you winning money with Saturn sitting there. All right? Sorry, I gotta fix myself. So if Saturn, the house itself is offset, but Saturn brings that sense of responsibility. Ambi, does your fifth house have Jupiter as the ruler of that house? Because if it does, then I'll understand why you win when you win. But Saturn, it's like an off balance. It brings that sense of you won't win so much. I don't gamble, but I have Jupiter. If I'm correct, you do have Saturn. Sagittarius ruling your fifth house because you're Leo rising. Moving on to Saturn in the sixth house. And what is the sixth house? The sixth house is your house of health, your house of service, is the house of pets. Anyone y'all got Saturn inside the fifth and the sixth house? No. That's a hard one to have. Why? Because Saturn doesn't really like being subservient. Excuse me? I gotta listen to what you say. Do you know who I am? Yeah. Saturn has a big ego. Oh, yes, it does. Okay, let's take a look at Saturn in the fifth house. That could possibly be so. Or being restricted from having a job, or any kind of stuff that Saturn rules can be health problems, which we mentioned before was when I read the insert in the book. Skin, teeth, bones, the gallbladder, certain, I forget what other part. But these are the parts that are ruled by Saturn. And with Saturn in the the sixth house, can possibly bring on these possibilities. It could also make, when you're at work, your superiors to be a little bit more hard on it. A little bit more hard on you, in a sense. I have Saturn ruling my sixth house. And I have teeth issues, skin issues. And if you take a look at my fingers and my stuff, I also have bone issues. Like my knees, I have knee problem now. Alright? Because of little old Saturn. Alright? Yeah, Saturn brings on teeth issues as well. Especially sitting inside the sixth house. Yeah, so let's look at the sixth house question. So they were too healthy with their bones in their past life. Deal, that's a really good question. You just brought that. No, I'm not saying that. Maybe they took that health thing a little to the extreme. Maybe they focus on their health a little bit more, a little too much. Remember now, it's the karma. Maybe they didn't take care of their health at all when it comes to these areas. Overlooked them, didn't focus on them at all. So the Saturn in the sixth house could be a representation of karma dealing with that. All right. It could also have a karma dealing with service, with work. What you give out, your analytical way of, or your practical way of doing things in an analytical way, or rational way. Being like, what, I want to critique this because and that's what Saturn does inside the fifth house. Maybe because of you, sixth house. Because you put too much time and energy into critiquing things, so now you're being critiqued from your boss. Oh, touching on job problems with Saturn in the fifth house. Do you have Saturn in the fifth house? The sixth, sorry. Because it's the sixth house we're talking about. So I accidentally said fifth is actually six. Okay? Kevin, you have Saturn in the sixth house? Oh, yeah, so Saturn in the sixth house, yeah.
Attention people, is this you? Broken down car.
Can that come on one more time? I heard somebody. Saturn in the sixth house. So let me give you a person who has Saturn in the sixth house. Kanye Reeves. Kanye Reeves. Is that his name? Yeah. Kanye Reeves is known to have, like skin situation and bone situation. Let's name some other people. Kourtney Kardashian. Yeah, Kanye. Not. I'm sorry. What his name is again? Sorry. No, I pronounced it wrong. You're right. Keanu Reeves. That's his name. Keanu Reeves. We say Kanye. Keanu Reeves. My apologies. Sorry. So saying that they are workaholics, does that mean when they do get a job, they are hard workers. Yes. Very responsible on the job. Very, very responsible on the job. Remember now. Saturn, people have Saturn in his fifth house, are people you want on the job. Because they're going to stay on that job forever. They're going to bring that service, and they're going to bring that service consistently over time. So if I was an employer, no, honestly, I would employ an astrologer. Why? Why would I employ an astrologer? Because I want to know who's going to be the person that sticks with my job. I want to know who's the person who is going to have health problems all straight through, and what kind of problems, so we could take on that insurance out on them. But yeah, so Saturn, and that was a side of check me out being all Leo rising. Anyway, put that back in here. Yeah, Saturn in the sixth house would present that to them. Can name some other people who have Saturn in the sixth house, in the fifth house. There could possibly be, if it has a negative aspect, that could possibly be so, especially if it has an aspect to Pluto or to Uranus. Yeah, there's a possibility of that, according to the aspects it's having. Let's see some other people as that. Kourtney Kardashian, Osama bin Laden. I get what you're saying, a vibe. I get where you're coming from. A vibe meaning a problem. Yes. You know, that could. But the thing is, they are very, very good at that. They are good at the work, their job. And, you know, another thing I realize is these people actually rise to supervisory positions with Saturn sitting in the sixth house. What you want to look at? You want to look at Osama bin Laden's chart with Saturn in the fifth house? Okay, no problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All right, I was looking at LeBron James. LeBron James has Saturn sitting in the fifth house, actually. Let me make sure that Osama bin Laden actually has that, because so Osama bin Laden doesn't necessarily has Saturn sitting in the fifth house. He has it in the seventh house of diplomacy. And because of his Saturn sitting in the seventh house, he, as you can see, it was his demise. He had Saturn in Sagittarius, of foreign places, foreign culture, in the seventh house. It literally was a karmic debt towards him. Since we're talking about Osama bin Laden, I'm just saying. So yeah, the charts of these people literally foretell if they go with those the energies of the planets without even knowing and understanding what they're doing, it can lead to their demise, especially dealing with Saturn. All right, any more questions? I want you to ask me questions while I have the time. Because I have to deliver this thing. Somebody left something in my car, and I got to carry that. Crazy. It's crazy. But yeah. So, class, do you have any questions before I issue? I don't want y'all to sleep, you know. I'm still looking for these homework. And I am not allowing anybody to take the test or any exam without first handing me all of your assignments. Or you want me to touch on Saturn the 7th? Who's that who want me to touch on Saturn the 7th? Do you happen to have Saturn in the 7th, Ambrosian? I think Dale has Saturn in the 7th. Oh, it's 9:50. You are right. Thank you very much. Money on top on it. Like I said, Saturn. You know what? Hold that thought. Class is tomorrow, so we'll discuss that in class tomorrow. Okay. Now, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Your homework assignment, page 67. Finish it. Take a picture of it. Send me the email. You still got Jupiter. You still got Mars. You still got the Moon. You still got the Sun. That all of them, the majority of you guys have not sent me yet. But I'm looking forward to it. You can't take the final. You can't take any of the tests, any exam until I see that. It was a pleasure and honor. And we look forward to continuing on Saturn tomorrow. Good night. Peace and love.